After Effects is a two-dimensional platform. But then there's something called 2.5D that we call. There is another element of faking third dimension possible here in After Effects. Whereas in the proper three-dimensional software like Cinema 4D or Blender that you would have heard, that has the Z space completely. You have a three-dimensional space world out there. You can take your camera anywhere, right? You can see all the sides of a product, whether it's the squash and stretch, or whether the easing, the timing of your animation, and maybe the very staging of your composition, and also the anticipation. Whenever you need to throw an object, you kind of take a step back and then throw. So you give a clue to the user or the viewer that there is some action that he can anticipate, right?
Sachin Shetty is a senior motion designer at Microsoft, and in today's podcast with Sachin, we will be exploring what exactly is motion design, what are the areas where motion design can make an impact, what are the career opportunities that exist in motion design, and what are the tools and technologies that can be used. Hey guys, welcome to Better Engineering and Management Podcast. Today we have Sachin joining us to discuss a very interesting topic. Okay, we all know that movement is life and motion is the essence of movement. Sachin is a senior motion designer at Microsoft. Sachin, please welcome to the podcast. Hi, Sachin. Please give a small introduction about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, Sachin here. So I work as a motion designer at Microsoft, and I focus on mostly motion to improve the communication and enhance the overall user experience of all our products.
Sure.
Yes.
Sachin, so tell us exactly, Sachin, what exactly is this motion design or motion graphics, and why is this so significant?
Uh, so when I came across motion design, motion graphics, right? Initially, I'll tell you about how I started my journey, so that kind of gives you a context of the way in which things evolved. I started my career as a flash animator in the IT industry itself, and then moved into video editing, and then I made my way to motion graphics. So motion graphics, as you know, is about animating text, illustrations, texture images, or short clips, maybe to share ideas, basically, right? So there are industries like entertainment or media or the IT or even the education sector. They have leveraged this medium to a very great extent. Uh, Whether it's for promoting a product or explaining a concept, motion graphics really helps, bringing stories to life.
Right. So, so when you say motion designing, right,
Right.
exactly what does it involve, and can you shed some light on that?
Sure. So when I say motion graphics, it's mostly originated from the media and the marketing sector, where they focus on animated visuals and storytelling and things like that. It further evolved later and expanded to the gaming industries and then to the UX domain, bringing in very meaningful animation into digital products to enhance the user experience. So when it comes to the UX domain, we usually call it as motion design, because it's more specific to those micro animations that you do, to you know to bring about a better effective communication within the software product. Whereas motion graphics, when we refer, it's more that the term is used more in the advertising field or marketing, right? A product, there's a lot of visual effects involved, there's a lot of animation involved, maybe 2D, 3D, whatever it is. Uh, it's a combination, it's a mixed media, basically. You have a combination of many different variations of animations now specialized into one section. But motion design, when we speak, it mostly is associated with the UX or the UI. animation.
Sure. So what I understand is motion design, as you mentioned, is uh, very good role in storytelling because static things won't convey certain, let's say, you are preparing an advertisement on something. Without motion, that advertisement can be boring and it may not convey any movement or any, there may not be any life in that advertisement. Right? So that is where motion design has come. And what I also understand is motion design and motion graphics are a bit interchangeably used terms. Marketing generally uses motion graphics, whereas when you are working in a professional field, you will probably use the term motion design. Let's say professionals are talking, they will probably use the term design more. However, there is no rigid kind of a boundary between these two terms. And and then you also mentioned something like there are different kinds of animation. For example, when we're talking about product, right? When we're different kind of animations will be involved, and then there is micro animations, which like most of the things are static, but few things are moving. And I believe like text animations are also involved, or the movement of objects. Everywhere wherever there is a movement, there is motion. You can probably it will fit into some category of motion. Sachin, tell me, since you are a senior motion designer, let's say someone new is trying to understand this motion design and trying to learn it. What kind of process and mindset should one adopt when he is beginning to learn motion design? Any frameworks or any kind of thinking that will help him become better at it?
So the way in which one could approach motion design or graphics while crafting an experience or even presenting a vision, one should, I feel, I mean, if I talk about myself, I would start understanding the very purpose of the animation, and secondly is the audience to know who you are actually, communicating to, and also know the timelines.
Okay.
So, why do you need to know the purpose? Purpose is going to give you some clues of what approach you want to take, right, in visualizing the techniques while you're building the story.
Mhm.
The knowing the audience is going to help you define what complexity of how detailed you need to be in communicating. What age? Maybe they are doing it for children. Then you need to have a different approach in going into much simpler forms and much more detail. Or sometimes when you need to even addressing a different age group or a different geographical region, then you need to communicate in that style of communication. So you need to know these things, which will really help you to craft it much better, right?
Okay.
So, and also the timeline. When I say timeline, definitely you need to know the timeline so that you can set up your process and plan your whole methodologies quite in a systematic way. Things should not be like you know uh, you're not even frozen the storyboard and you're already starting production. Then you're going to mix it up and really make things really bad.
Mhm.
So it's always suggested that you follow a process like having a pre-production, production, and post-production sort of system in place.
Okay.
Where when we talk about pre-production, uh, I'm talking about the storyboarding uh, and the reviews that you have, and also come up with an animatic version. Uh, what is animatic version? Okay, let me tell you what is animatic version. Uh, Animatic is not the production, you're not stepping into the production of it, but then whatever that you have spoken to the client or your designer within the storyboard, made a storyboard of it, and you have reviewed it. Now we want to see it in composition in sequence, right? This is like a rough draft, right? Very rough draft without or probably very minimal motion in it. Okay,
Yes.
so this is you haven't started anything full fledged, but then you're kind of clearing out things for with the whom you want to, with you're collaborating with. So they get to know how the story is flowing. So if there is some, highlights that they require at that point of time, they can even get back to the storyboard and then review it further and then come back. Right? So these are the aspects that you need to worry about in the pre-production phase, right?
Okay.
In the production phase, that is where you land the production only when you are done with the storyboard. You're frozen, and there is no other change as such. you have dealt with it. So it's really suggested. I would suggest spend as much time in the pre-production phase so that you have a very good production timeline, and you have no disturbance and no kind of alterations that are happening in the production. You will actually you can plan it much better, be very much within the predictable timeline. Okay, so when you finish that production, then you go with the first draft and show it to your client. Then you get a review of it. Usually, as I've seen, the iterations are much less in this phase because all the changes that we are thinking, everything has been done in the pre-production. So usually iterations are much less in the productions after the production stage. Then, of course, you give your final render. But in case where you have to go shoot outside and things like that for projects of that sort, you definitely have something called post production, because production is not about just doing things in your computer, but production is over there is very much related to your shoot, right? Okay. You need to have a direction, you need to have a cinematographer, you need to have all the lighting set up, you have all your shoot schedule set up, right? So that comes in the production. Then later you come to the post production, which is the editing part there, right? So there are two different streams. One sort of animation or a video that you do with shooting, and the other is all built up within your system, right? So yeah, these are the stuff that I would like to share. But then yeah, brainstorming and collaborating with your designers is very important initially to understand very much. That's the key. That is going to help you visualize in the first phase itself. Before you even land into production, you would want to visualize a lot of things. You will have so many ideas. You need to put it all, and probably you use tools like Figma. You just a very good collaboration tool that we use. So that really helps in putting out ideas, and then we refine it further, and then kind of build up the storyboard. So yeah, that's this one.
So basically, what I understand is there are a couple of things that if you're into motion design, you should worry about. First is the pre-production. That is where you have got a request for a let's say project, and you will kind of find out what is the purpose of this particular project, who is the audience. You will kind of mentally clear yourself like what kind of product is required here, because some audience maybe they may want something simpler, with other audiences may, let's say, a gaming audience or something like that, maybe interested in more complex animations. And so you will have to kind of plan that out in the pre-production. You do a storyboarding where you will kind of put all the pieces, and basically then you are ready for production, which is you have got all the footage and all the data that you are kind of going to put into your softwares and do the production. And then you also mentioned that if you have done an outdoor shooting and all those things, then you also go into post-production, because the production happened in the outdoor where we recorded all the videos, footage, shooting, and now you will collect all that data into your softwares and kind of polish them, connect them, integrate them. So there are essentially three parts to this journey. One is pre-production, one is production, and one is post-production. And interesting. So I think you have to be very professional in here and kind of very systematic if you want a good output. And this is where I think you are stressing that kind of divide the phases in such a way. And so, Sachin, tell me, specifically regarding the motion design, is there any framework that you put? For example, let's say there's a motion. The motion can have about many things, right? Like there can be product which is moving. There can be simple text-based motion. There can be simple. Let's say there's a milk ad, right? Or a chocolate ad, right? Chocolates will be moving, right? So how do you kind of visualize that, and how many people get involved in this kind of productions? Like, would there be separate person just for motion and separate person for kind of visualizing all these things? How would you manage that?
So it depends on the scale of the project.
Okay.
What is the requirement, and how much amount of work is required, effort is required to fulfill that, and the tools and the techniques that we adopt will kind of define the timelines also, right? Now, let's say we want a marketing ad, right, or even an explainer video. There might be instances where you might want to shoot certain clips outside, right? To give some more realism to it. There are some possibilities that you might want certain animations to be done because not all, you know, information can be captured through camera. Sometimes you need some animation to overlay on the video so that it can communicate for much better. So they can't be recorded in real time. You need to kind of have an overlay information over it and then say what is actually happening inside or define with some values and then information along with that with the same momentum on the perspective maybe things like that. So the requirement can be complex, the requirement can be simple also. You can it depends on how you're building the storyboard, you're building the idea, right? And your budget for that also is important. So depending on that, you need to kind of build a systematic storyboard wherein you have all these components in your mind. How far can you take this project? What all resources that you need for this project, right? This, when you kind of jot it down, you'll have an idea as to what's the best way to between your skills that you have probably and the kind of preferences that you have, the experience that you have. You will have to work out within that. Okay. It's not that, hey, there are a lot of use. You might have seen references. The client can give you all the best of the best references. And there can be many ways in achieving an animation, actually. Not necessarily that you need to go and buy that very costly software out there and then, try your hands, learn things, and then afterwards, no, it's not that. You can even do in a very simple 2D animation also. I can do in stop motion animation. You can have a lot of varieties, lot of techniques out there. I mean, if you go through the kind of outputs out there, the renders out there, you can see the simplest of the simplest animation being communicated so effectively. You can see the complex way also. So it depends which you want to select according to your skills, right? Uh, it can overwhelm you, but then it's all in your hand as to how uh, you want to kind of mold this or craft this whole story into. So it's there. There is complete freedom. There is complete freedom. One need not be influenced by a certain technique. One need not be influenced by, or pressurized by the kind of complexity in the software. You don't need to know the complete software, the entire software for it, right? You need to know what is required, which will serve a purpose for your animation. Right? Sure. So the software can offer a lot of features and a lot of plugins. There are huge lot of plugins out there to buy. Keep buying things, it will never end. So what is relevant to you? How you're building a storyboard? It's all about idea that you come up with. It is going to be the crucial foundation for you to set up all the required tools that you require, the techniques that you want, the effort, the amount of skills that is required. Right? Sure. Maybe you need to hire somebody to get certain things done. So all those things, when you actually plan it out, then you step into the actual production of it, supervise the whole stuff. There are studios which go in through who have specialized skills. One will be handling the lights, maybe one will be handling the very camera angles. There'll be another set of people who will be handling the very character element of it. Maybe it's object or it's a character as such. So it depends on how large is your studio, or you might be a freelancer. Now you cannot afford to go and hire people out there. So the technique and approach that you're going to take is according to the skills that you have, right? So it doesn't limit anybody actually. Sure. It depends on, yeah. Understood. Basically, what I understand is softwares can be complex, they can have thousands of plugins, but what you want to use, you should know. You should not get kind of overwhelmed by all those complexities and the numerous options available. Based on your budget, your needs, and how much budget you have, how many
how much is that project worth, you should design and choose wisely, but you can make impact at any level, is what I understand. If you can make a good impact using smaller softwares, simpler softwares, and basics also, if the storytelling is proper. And so, Sachin, tell me one thing, like, what are the major areas where this motion design can play a huge impact, and how do you think it has evolved over time?
So, as I've seen, I mean, motion graphics itself is has the ability to make the content more digestible, very engaging, and memorable. People can remember things. That's the reason this very platform, this very mode of communication has become so special and very powerful. So the areas, if you're asking, it definitely started off with movies and advertisements mostly.
Yes.
Just like there was print industry, and we had a lot of illustrations and cartoons coming up along the lines. That is when the motion picture come into picture, and you have a lot of advertisements involved in it, which has videos. So and also in the education sector, right? To even communicate a concept, right? You can utilize use of motion graphics where you can teach academics, teach certain concepts that are not, that are something that is easy to understand with words, right? When people communicate certain things, we tend to visualize. Each one of us visualize in our own way, right? But then, if there's a video, so everybody focuses on one defined form of understanding, right? So that becomes very easy. We know that everybody is kind of getting the point, what we want to communicate, right? Everybody on the same page. Then we have learning apps. These days, you see a lot of motion graphics is used, making it very engaging. And the feedback that you get through this kind of gives the motivation to kind of engage it further. Then there is the social awareness, maybe these campaigns that you have, that the marketing or advertising studios, come about. So along with it, definitely tech companies is another stream to utilize this form of communication. Uh, Either you want to have internal showcase reel or vision videos that they make, or they would also use for uh, the user experience, enhancing the overall user experience also.
Sure. So, well, so what I understand is like the main areas will be movies and ads are there anyway all the time. There are a lot of motion
Yeah,
graphics is used. The
absolutely.
education sector is also somewhere there because a lot of learning material is there, right? And often students get bored by if they have to read text. So you can kind of put those things in motion with graphics. That makes the content more engaging. That's also one great area. And a lot of learning apps also you mentioned, I believe. So learning apps where people can go and learn new technology, new ways of life, whatever, all those places where you want the story to be more engaging, we want it to kind of feel to be involved, motion can play a good role there. Okay, that's very interesting. So, Sachin, if you had to tell like so many people are trying to learn these technology, what are the tools and technologies that you think can help them, and some of the let's say techniques if you can share with them? You already mentioned, I believe, Figma, which is used for collaboration, and what else can kind of help them?
Yeah. So talking about tools, there are tools out there.
Yeah.
But if you take the industry standard tools, there's Adobe has come out with amazing tools out there. We have After Effects, we have Premiere. After Effects is a two-dimensional platform. But then there's something called 2.5D that we call. There is another element of faking third dimension, possible here in After Effects. Whereas in the proper three-dimensional software like Cinema 4D or Blender that you would have heard, that has the Z space completely. You have a three-dimensional space world out there. You can take your camera anywhere, right? You can see all the sides of a product. But over here, in After Effects, you have 2.5D. When I say 2.5D, you have the Z depth. right? But any object that you see appears to be a three-dimensional. You can have a three-dimensional cube there, even in After Effects, but then you cannot go take your camera and move around it because it's a flat layer. So it's all layers, right? So all these plugins that are there that can give you three-dimensional effects and things like that are definitely fall under this category where it can give you that 2.5D experience. But then it's limited to a layer. There is no three-dimensional space there. So that also is another if interesting space to play around with animation and visual effects, and there is UI animation also being done in After Effects. So things are evolving and have been evolving since then. Like After Effects was nowhere in, probably 50 years back or something like that. I mean, even then, back then, it was more of Flash that was used for two-dimensional animations because of its file size. Now we have internet bandwidth, pretty much that we can have good amount of videos. And the consumption of video is more than any of the other communication mediums. So Premiere Pro is a software which is more for video editing. You can't do animation such. You can't depend on the software for animations, but you can do good amount of video editing and your post production stuff. That you have collected your footage, and then you have your color grading, color corrections first, and then afterwards you edit, you do a rough draft of it, and then afterwards, after you all edit and even the audio sync, everything is done. Then you do a color grading at the end, and then you deliver. So I would say you can't do certain things like audio editing and stuff like that in After Effects. Because that has a limitation over there. But then although you can do cutting and pasting and things like that, but then it's going to really be a good amount of struggle there dealing with audio. So that would be better in Premiere Pro. So you can get all your work done in your After Effects, do all that stuff, and then get it to Premiere, and then do all the audio sync or anything that you want. That's the process that I have been using, and it's worked really good. Actually, saves your time, and also if you say the load on the system, right? With these softwares are pretty much high. You need a heavy GPU and CPUs and things like that. But then at the same time, the After Effects or Adobe has kind of optimized it very well. There is multi-thread rendering happening out. There is GPU power that is being used. Before it was only CPU for all renderings and editing. So now GPU is being used very much for your rendering purposes. So yeah, that way there is these are the softwares that are mostly used. But also, Lottie animations, Lottie files are being used now for all your UI animations for your mobile applications or web applications. So there are a lot of tools out there. Depends on what is your input. Right? That's the key. I would say, yeah, I would say a last point is you need to have a solid understanding. Tools are one section. The other thing is a solid grip on the principles of motion, principles of the animation is the key. We have Disney Studios coming up with 12 principles. So that actually has been formulated over a period of time from 1930s to 1970s. Then they came out with very thorough research and laid out some 12 principles, right? Those are the ones that one needs to digest. It takes years, I tell you. It takes really a long time to get a hang of things because you are trying to simulate the real world. And over that, you're trying to exaggerate certain things. So it takes time for one to kind of get a hang of it. But if you get that solid as your foundation, I tell you, whatever tool that you use, whatever animation that you want to do, it'll absolutely look great.
So what I understand is that for general animation, you can use Adobe After Effects, but it has some limitations. but there are certain advantages you mentioned with 2.5 where you can add depth into the animations also. So depth is very important in animation because it's a movement, right? So to give a 3D impact into 2D, you will need depth, and that is possible. And then after you have kind of made your animations, you can use something like Adobe Premiere, where you can do a lot of audio editing also, and you can then create a footage which is perfect in a way. And of course, we have mentioned a couple of software. There can be hundreds of such softwares, right? And but what you also mentioned is like the principles of motion are very important, motion design. And you mentioned that there are 12 principles of motion design which have been kind of pretty much which are the fundamentals. And oh, is there any where can one find those 12 principles? I mean, is it like easily available on internet? And is there any summary that you would like to give on those 12 principles? What exactly those principles are about?
Yeah, you do get in publication also
Mm.
these 12 principles of animation by Disney Studios, and you also have n number of YouTube tutorials. I tell you, YouTube is a real good, great resource for learning uh, anything domain. So you can have good amount of animations done for explaining your each of these principles. So definitely that will help in understanding each of these principles, whether it's the squash and stretch, or whether the easing, the timing of your animation or the movement, and maybe the very staging of your composition, uh, and also the anticipation. Whenever you need to throw an object, you kind of take a step back and then throw. So you give a clue to the user or the viewer that there is some action that he can anticipate, right? So it just doesn't happen just like that, right? And there is this amount of gravity and the weight that you get a feel. Only when you involve all these things, then the user or the viewer is able to relate to the creation, right? Is able to relate to the real world, because our brain is being trained to see the whole physics that we see in the real world, right?
Mhm.
In the real physical world. So that is what we relate to. So that is what we're trying to simulate in the digital space. So there won't be much difference between the real world and the digital world when you come very close to it, right?
Right.
So yeah, that should be relatable. Animation should be relatable.
Yes, yes. So what I understand is it's very interesting actually what you mentioned. Basically, what happens is you are trying to mimic the real world in a way in animation, make it more maybe impactful or funny or kind of animated, so to say. And these 12 principles help you there because they kind of lay certain principles on how can you emulate physics and the human psychology to come up with higher impact, right? As you mentioned, building anticipation and all those kind of feelings, right? So that when
Yes.
people are watching certain animation, they have an idea what is coming, and there is also a sense of surprise, and of course there is a physical movement involved, which is physics. So what I can do to all the viewers, maybe I'll give a link to those 12 principles, and of course, as Sachin mentioned, there are many such videos you can just kind of Google them also. And at this point, I would like also all the viewers to let us know if they have used motion design recently in some big projects, and what are the obstacles they face. Have they already used these 12 principles? Has it helped them? That would be fun to know. Uh, Sachin, one last question I would like to ask is like, what are the career opportunities that exist in motion design or motion graphics as such, and where can one find them?
So depends on, first you need to realize what is your skill. I mean, what is the thing that you are relating to, and if you are relating to motion animation, or you are relating to making only illustrations, or relating to making some visual effects, things like that, then there are different industries utilizing these skills. Like the gaming industry utilizes in certain level of animations. stuff like that. There is an other industry of broadcast media which will be using for your title sequences, very creative title sequences, so lower thirds, and all sorts of transitions, things like that that they would use for your broadcast. Uh, you know, and then you have this maybe studios which are like advertising ones which cater to different industries. Maybe it's an automobile, maybe it's health, or maybe it's social awareness. So studios have a larger uh, variety of applications, so they would deal with different kinds of clients, right, coming from different industries, right? That is one area. And then there is this technology area wherein you might be required to do some communication, to create communication videos which are like internal ones, which are communicating the product features that you want to communicate within the company, or even sometimes to the public outside, external. So, so there are different industries. Things have not expanded as much before, but now it's kind of gone diverse, like gone through many different industries. Definitely, these are the areas to look for. But most importantly, one should know that is one passionate about it, and what area one would like to specialize on it. You will definitely find an industry what they're established already, or would be seeking to kind of get your talent or skill, and leverage that for their competition. Yeah.
So basically, what I understand, the other can directly enter the industry where a lot of animation is being made, day in, day out, we see a lot of animation, so there is definitely huge scope. Or you can probably join an agency which kind of serves clients, and agencies also have a lot of work, and agencies can be multi-dimensional. They can be in social awareness, they can be serving big clients also, and they have a lot of career opportunities there also. But before kind of jumping, one should be aware like what are his skills and does he actually find his work, enjoyable? Is he passionate about these things? And those things will also play a major role in kind of helping him go ahead. So, but there are a lot of opportunities. There is not that of career opportunities, and I believe all the movies. We already mentioned movies, ads, and lot of animation, even gaming, right? So great opportunities exist. You'll have to find them though, and you'll have to grow yourself into it. And some of the advices that Sachin has given, right, like following the story principles, uh, staging your work in such a way where you do the production work, do a lot of storyboarding, collect the ideas, be thorough with your kind of a pre-production before going into production. Those things will make you more professional in it, and the output of your work will be better. Sachin, on that note, I would like to thank you. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Mm.
Yeah.
Just before we, one point is see, it's very easy to get fascinated when you see something so beautifully, illustrated or animated, right? There is one part is just fascination. You also want to do it, right? There is another part which you have your own skill development. You have something that you really like cooking. It's not just about the dish smells really good and you would want to learn cooking. No, when you went into the cooking, you really are not able to relate to it, right? All the cooking process, right? It's just like that over here also. There's fascination, yes, of course, but then be practical and see you really love the cooking of it. This whole animation, right? This is something that we need to gauge, inside. There's one part of it, and then second part of it that I would want to add or share is utilize the power of artificial intelligence as much as possible, because whether you're doing a storyboarding or trying to kind of communicate certain stories through illustration, things like that, you can definitely use all those AI tools to kind of help you visualize things out. It'll give you some inspirations maybe, or it'll give you some, it'll definitely help you aid in further, giving directions as to which storyline that you would want to take, right? This definitely will help a lot, even in coding and things like that. Design to code, you don't need to code, right? So you can utilize AI to kind of get those animations, simple animations that they want to have in a UI or something like that, to be converted to a CSS code, or any code that was that the engineering would implement, or that would they would be help. So they definitely, you should definitely utilize the AI as much as possible. Adobe itself uses quite a good amount of stuff in its Premiere, also video editing, also where you can stretch your video to an extra length, so that it generates a certain amount of footage if you haven't had the footage also, right? And then to the extent that you can even remove and add objects within the video itself, that also is possible these days. So yeah, all this are definitely very nice to hear also, but then when it comes to working mode, definitely will have its own challenges, but then things are moving really really fast and really improving, helping a video editor or an animator in his process of explaining or doing his animation work.
Sure. So, well, thank you, Sachin. I think that everybody should know that those animations, the world is very fascinating actually. If you see a good animation, and even because I also remember during college days, one of the things that attracted us all to computers was watching animations. And there was a friend of mine who used to make animations in Flash. He kind of modeled our entire college in Flash and with movement. So you can kind of go to it and at the department of the college, you can go to the playground and can see everything in Flash. And it was like very fascinating. Even certain helicopters from the army, like Apache and all, made in Flash, and when you see them flying, right, immediately you can get kind of impressed and start thinking that, hey, I also want to do that. But you have to understand fascination is one thing and skills is another. Maybe you like watching it, but kind of when you go into the details of it, you will see that there is some strong skills required. You should be interested in that also. Then only you should be moving ahead. And as Sachin also mentioned, second point, that utilize artificial intelligence. AI is playing a huge role in kind of leveling up this game of for animation, because it can kind of shorten the time to do certain things. And as you already mentioned, the Adobe suite of tools, right? They're already using AI to kind of quite a lot of you can start kind of attaching objects into your animation, make them move, and all those features are there. Definitely look out for AI because it kind of eases many things, and many things which used to take a lot of time and effort can be done easily. And again, thank you, Sachin. On that note, I think this was a great conversation, and people I will also link Sachin's profile in the description if anyone wants to connect with him. If you have any queries, feel free to kind of message. And as we started, right, keep designing motions. Motion graphics is fun. It is attractive. It kind of encourages us to watch more videos. So it also helps us learn more, right? For all the subscribers, all the viewers, please thank you for watching. Do subscribe for many such amazing conversations. Thank you, Sachin. Have a nice day.
Okay.